Welcome to the Diamond Baron podcast. My aim is to explore the people and families behind the diamond and jewelry industry, and to look to understand what happened at that critical moment in their careers that gave them the edge. We explore how they solved the seemingly insurmountable problems they faced. Okay, so I am very fortunate to have with me two very special people today, Shmuel Schnitzer and his son Shai Schnitzer. We're talking to, without a doubt, one of the most illustrious families in the diamond industry worldwide, with an incredible history, which today we're looking to hear and know more. Some of you will probably know the name, the Schnitzer family name. Many of you might not, but I think you're going to hear some interesting things. But more importantly, what I'm trying to do is to ask the questions that you would probably want to ask, how people deal with difficult situations in life. And in this case, we have a father and son scenario. So we actually want to hear the different perspectives of how father and son see things. But in this family situation, I have to go back a step, because the family was led originally one generation earlier by what is known, a person who was known as one of the great diamantaires, and that was Moshe Schnitzer. So I'm going to pose a few questions first to Shmuel, and then I'm going to ask Shai to jump in, and anyone can raise their hand and jump in if they feel that someone's telling a story that's not really correct, but it's often perspective how we see things. So Shmuel, thank you, and Shai, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us on.
Pleasure. So, Shmuel, can you give us a little bit of an insight? Who was Moshe Schnitzer?
Moshe Schnitzer, my father, he was actually one of the founders of the Israeli diamond industry. It all started in the late 1930s, the beginning of 1940s, when some Jewish refugees came from Europe to Israel. They brought with them the know-how of the diamond business from Antwerp, from Amsterdam, and they actually started manufacturing diamonds in Israel. My father was one of those. He came to Israel actually in 1933 already, and he joined the diamond business at the beginning of the 40s. The beginning was very difficult, of course, because to start from zero, it's not easy, as we all know. In Europe, there was already a very well-established diamond industry in Antwerp and Amsterdam, and Israel was nothing. But they had a lot of big vision, and they were very ambitious, and they were very decisive. So it took some years, I would say, from the beginning of the 40s until the end of the 40s, and there was already an industry in Israel. Beginning of the 50s, my father, Mr. Moshe Schnitzer, was one of the founders of the first Israeli diamond exchange. It was in the center of Tel Aviv in a very small building. And the rest is history. It started slowly from export of 100,000 per year to export of almost $11, $12 billion per year. And in all this process, my father was there. And luckily also was one of the initiatives of this big complex that we're having now in Ramat Gan. 4 big buildings with a huge diamond center. And I think it's enough. That's it.
So what was your first memory as a child that you were actually in this diamond industry?
I tell you what I remember. I remember we used to live in the center of Tel Aviv. And my father was a very hard worker. He was working from 8 o'clock until 8, 9 in the evening. When he left the office, which was in Ahuzat Bay Street, a very small street, he took parcels with him home, because the vault downstairs was already closed. So always used to bring with him diamonds in the pockets. In his pockets, there were some parcels, briefcase, parcels of diamonds. As a child, I remember he used to come and ask me, "Are you interested to see some nice diamonds?" Of course, I wanted to see. He opened the briefcase, the diamond envelopes, and showed me all kinds of stones. Those days, Israel was mostly manufacturing small stones, so it was briefcase with small diamonds, big parcels. I was amazed. for me to see so many diamonds, on the table, it was something. It's a memory that I'll never forget. And this was really the first thing that I remember related to the diamond industry.
And was that polished or was that rough in those days?
Polished. He was bringing the polished, yes. Yeah, he was most of the years. He was, it was more diamond dealer than a manufacturer. He also manufactured, but the biggest activity was in the dealing, and he was bringing polished diamonds home, which was fascinating.
Wow. So, we all know that, what a traumatic history Israel's had in war years. How did the diamond industry survive during the war? All these, we had, you said it started in the 30s, the diamond industry. So we had War of Independence, 6-Day War, Sinai Camp, all these, so many problems.
I tell you, this question is really one of the important ones, because people thought that because of the security situation in Israel for so many years, it will be difficult to develop here a really substantial and big commercial center, a manufacturing center. But luckily, it wasn't the case, and I'll tell you why. I remember many wars, since the 67 wars, which I was a child still, until the last wars in Lebanon. Unfortunately, Israel had many wars, which mostly were forced upon ourselves. And luckily for us, during all the wars, there was not even one day that the Israel diamond industry stopped working for two reasons. Number one, we knew that if we stop for even some time, it can hurt dramatically our business. So people came as usual diamond exchange. And here is the second point that helped us. We have had many, many loyal customers through all the world. I remember even in the Yom Kippur War, 1973. And afterwards, in Lebanon wars and so on, very tense time, Japanese people, Hong Kong people, Americans, Europeans, Australians, everybody used to come in order to show their sympathy with the state of Israel and with the Israeli diamond industry. So the combination of these two factors, the decision of the Israeli diamond manufacturers and exporters not to stop for even 1 minute, and the cooperation, the healthy cooperation that goes from all over the world, which we highly appreciated, helped going through these difficult times.
Being the son of one of the creators of the diamond industry, you're always, I'm sure, especially, even today, people know Moshe Schnitzer, but with Shai, Shmuel's, is your father, and I know myself, I had similar experiences with my own father. So, the question is, when did you feel you were no longer being judged as Moshe's son, and you were Shmuel?
The answer is never. When you have a father like my father, that on his name, most of this complex here, the diamond area or diamond circus, I don't know how to call it.
The plaza.
Plaza, oh, exactly. That is called on his name, the Moshe Schnitzer Plaza, and some of the buildings and so on. You cannot say that you can put a point and say, from here, there's no really strong connection between the father and the son. We're still active, thanks God, in the diamond business. Always have been people that made the comparisons between Moshe Schnitzer, Shmuel Schnitzer. I was for 8 years the president of the Israel Diamond Exchange. I was for 4 years president of the World Federation of Diamond Bosses. And still, because I went more or less through the same path that my father did, so they always made the comparisons, which for me, it always flattered me. Because my father was a great man, and the comparison made good to me. I was never embarrassed or never felt anything bad about this comparison. He had his way, I have my way, and hopefully people will appreciate both of us the same way, the way that we went through.
So, obviously, your father being such an inspiration, such a major part of your life, especially following through the same industry. So, who was someone else other than your father who inspired you? Did you have someone else who was a mentor in your life?
Yes, my father, he had for many, many years a partner. His name was Mr. Chaim Grünstein. They were partners since 1950 until 1980. And when I grew up in the diamond business, my father was always very busy, mostly in the public activities, as you know. And I was sitting opposite Mr. Grünstein, and he was really my direct mentor in all the diamond business. He was a very, very, very honest guy, and then, in the diamond business, we know that most people are really very reliable and honest, but he was exceptional. Really, he was exceptional. And I tried to learn a little bit from him. The combination of my father being a big business person, dealer person, manufacturer, and so on, together with the contribution that I got from Mr. Greenstein, as far as the variety of the business and so on and so forth, this combination, I hope, helped us create my own personality in the business and my activities in the future. Except my father, who for no doubt was my greatest mentor, it's Mr. Chaim Greenstein.
Interesting. Coming from such a established family, and obviously that had its advantages, but we're all faced with a point in our business career that's really difficult. And can you share with us a brief story? What did it take you? The situation was incredibly difficult, but what did you have to do to move past it?
We have to go back in a little bit in the history of the diamond business to come to this point. And I'm talking about 1979, 1980. This, I think, Rami, you were not in the business, you are too young. This was a horrible year in the diamond business, a real horrible year. Bankruptcies all over. There was a crisis, mostly in the Far East. And the economies were damaged dramatically. In 1 year, in Hong Kong, in Japan, 2 years, in 79, 88, maybe 81, we had huge bankruptcies of millions and millions and millions. Our company at that time was exporting to Japan only about $60 million per year. And to Hong Kong, those days, China didn't exist yet as a center, but Hong Kong, we were exporting to Hong Kong, Korea, etc., this region, similar quantity. Our exposure to credits in the Far East was huge. In 1 year, we lost in credits about $5 million, which was in those days, also today, but those days it was enormous amount. It could ruin many people in Israel also because of these things went bankrupt, many companies. But this was my best school, best lesson for the diamond business. The only way to recover these losses was to work even harder, which we did. In the 80s, afterwards, after the world recovered from this crisis, business was very active. By the end of the 80s, or even before, thanks to very, very hard work, not only in the Far East, but elsewhere also, we recovered the losses and we started making again a lot of money. But for me, it was the biggest lesson that I learned, and I tell you what it is. And my late father always mentioned it again and again. In the diamond business, when you are a dealer in a country like Israel, or manufacturer in a country like Israel, with exports all over the world, don't limit yourself to one market only in the world. So for example, when this market was very Far East, we were active in America, in Europe, Australia, etc., and we made money there. Once you are concentrated in one market only, when the problem hits there, you might be lost, you might be finished, which was the case with many Israeli, Belgium, and other companies at the time. So this is something I always remember, and it's a good lesson for life for me.
Shmuel, was your father in the business with you at that time?
Yes. I was 7 years in the business only, and he was a veteran already. So the responsibility was on him. I remember it so well because it was very, very dramatic effect on myself. And no doubt, because I'm telling you, we had huge companies in Israel in those days that collapsed, simply collapsed. If you didn't go if you didn't know how to pick up the lessons and to learn from experience, then it wasn't nice.
And I don't want to drill on that point, but in years later, when your father passed away, sorry to say, did you ever have a crisis similar that it fell on your shoulders exclusively?
Situation today, we have a long period of actually no activity in the diamond business, here in the diamond centers and manufacturing centers, because most of the world is locked because there is no activity. It's not an easy time for the diamond industry worldwide and in Israel specifically also. And honestly speaking, we could feel about a year or 2 years before that the situation has been tough. The corona was bad, but beforehand, a year or two already we felt difficult periods, as you know very well. Everybody in the business knows that we had tough times. So luckily, many of the Israeli companies, smelled that the time is not so great. They reduced their debt dramatically because the Israeli diamond exchange, the Israeli diamond trade used to owe the banks almost $3 billion. Today, the total debt is about 700 millions, less than 1/3 of the historical debt. So we can prepare for this crisis, prepared in a way, not 100%, but prepared. And the same I can say about our own company. Today, it's my son Shai and myself who are managing our company, Schnitzer Diamonds. Nobody could see the coronavirus, yes, but we could feel that the times are tough. We reduced our obligations, our exposure dramatically beforehand. So luckily, we are now waiting for improvement in the situation, but we are not under huge pressure, no doubt. But having said that, to answer your question, Rami, it's a very, very tough period for the diamond industry. Worldwide activity, I don't know if it exceeds 20 or 30% of the previous activity, and this says it all.
I hear what you're saying. I think to some extent we're in a slightly different scenario, only from the point of view that every industry is getting smashed or got smashed during COVID. So it's a little different, you know what I mean? But I take your point on board. You were aware that, I think the terminology we like to use is the writing on the wall, that you had to reduce exposure because the movement wasn't there. The momentum of the industry was faltering for a variety of reasons, doesn't matter right now why, and you're aware of it, and you adjusted accordingly.
Yes.
Was it important to you that your children went into the trade? I mean, you have another son as well. He was in the diamond industry. Is he still working with you?
My younger son is in America, in New York today. He's working for McKinsey.
Right.
He's in the finance, yes. And I tell you what, to speak honestly, I wanted my two sons to be with me in the business. It's natural. And my daughter was also for a while in the business. But I never tried to force, in a way, my opinion on my children. Because I'm a big believer that if you love what you're doing, you're going to be successful with God's help. If you don't really feel belong, you don't like, go to other areas. Shai, you are going to talk to him in a minute. He loves the business like I do. We enjoy being here, although times are not easy. We enjoy being in the diamond circles. We like doing business, buying graft, selling graft, buying polished diamonds, selling polished diamonds. Now we also deal in diamond jewelry, which we also enjoy very much. So I'm saying, if you like the diamond business, and luckily it's my son, very good. If you don't really feel belong, you don't like it so much, and you think that other areas are more suitable for what you are, go ahead. So I'm lucky to work with Shai, and I wish my daughter and my son good luck in what they're doing. Other ones, yes.
All right. Thank you, Shmuel. We're going to come back to you. So, Shai, you've been sitting patiently, waiting your turn. Listening. So far, he's told the truth, right?
Yeah, I confirm.
Okay, so tell me, what was your first memory of the diamond industry?
Oh, my first memory. You can separate to official or unofficial memory. Meaning, officially, I joined the business when I was 21 after the military service, the usual Israeli path, school, high school, military, and then some studies and work, of course. But unofficially, I started as a very young student of the business. Actually, it's always been part of me. It was part of my childhood. I have, memories of being at the office on summer holidays, other holidays, just, adoring diamonds and the work being done, the trading dynamics, seeing family, working together, which has always been a pleasure. Sitting alongside my father, seeing my late grandfather and family at work. I did some sorting of diamonds and for color, clarity, etc. So in a way, you could say that I supply cheap labor to the diamond industry. It was really fun. I enjoyed it, and it was my gateway to joining the business.
Okay, now I want the unofficial version. I want to know your first memory.
My first memory is, just dropping a diamond on the floor, in the office and just looking for it. We all have this kind of memory, whether working at a factory and the stone jumps off the wheel, or just being at the office. Diamonds have nature of attracting grease, the way that they stick to drawer corners and wheels and other parts of the office of the factory. So there's always fascinating stories of stone diamonds of various prices and valuations, which usually are high, that bounce off something, and all the offices looking for them either on the knees or looking at tables, etc. So this is one of the first memories for sure, bouncing such a stone and going looking for it half a day.
The difficult issue is, of course, your grandfather was a doyen of the trade. Your father is still one of the most respected leaders. It's a hard act to follow. Do you have a vision for what you'd like to achieve in this space?
Yeah, we all need to have one, or hope to have a vision. Now there's a cliche warning. A cliche is coming. I can definitely say that I'm following the footsteps of giants. So if we look at the commercial aspects first, then as my father said, my grandfather was one of Israel's biggest and pioneers, diamond traders, buying, selling, overlooking many aspects of the Israeli industry, and doing his best to grow his own business within the situation, with the challenges and the environment and everything involved. And then when my father joined the business, he did introduce a lot of new aspects into the business, his own view of the business, more diamond manufacturing and rough expertise and know-how, modern marketing to the new markets, Far East, developing new strategies. But he can talk more about that more than I can.
What's your vision, Shai?
Going back to me, finish with a history lesson or the present history. I'd like really to portray my own path. And of course, bring my genes, but also my viewpoint, mixing tech, modern aspects to integrate within our business. Of course, building upon what has been achieved over the last 80 years or so within this diamond industry in our business. But also, at the end of the day, it's about helping people buy diamonds. So it's about, enabling the business and mixing in the required technology, which I think we can also talk later about vis-a-vis the coronavirus, the virus situation, which has been enhancing these areas, but mainly focusing about helping people buy diamonds, whether it's our wholesale customers and jewelers with whom we cooperate, and also our own jewelry. As my father said, we've had our fair share of people coming and asking our opinion and help buying diamonds, which has developed a business which for now serves friends and family, but growing very rapidly, I would say, to other segments of the industry. So there's a lot of work to be done, further developing this area of the business. And now talking about the public level or diamond politics, when I was 36, 40 months, sorry. When I was 36, I was elected to the board of directors of the Diamond Exchange, where I served as chairman of committees for rough diamonds, which is responsible for sourcing rough diamonds from various areas in the world to the Israeli Diamond Exchange. I actually brought 2 or 3 major diamond producers to introduce their goods to the Israeli market via diamond auctions of tender, which I really felt was something important to do for the trade. And also the chairman of the technology committee, dealing with the various challenges and ideas of the diamond industry for the future. And let's see what the future holds in this.
Shmuel, I want to jump to you for a second. Did you ever stop and absolutely think how you wanted to make the transition, for the business between yourself and Shai, or it just sort of happened naturally? You never actually had to sort of stop and think, what is it that I want to show him? What do I need to show him? Or it's just like, just watch what I do and you're involved every day. Did you ever stop and make that structure?
I tell you honestly, Rami, I never had to, because from the first day that we were working together, we worked in harmony, we shared the responsibilities. So there was no really point that I had to make a decision, okay, from now on, I have to transfer, to deliver this. We're doing everything jointly and with a big pleasure. But having said that, I'm realistic. And my generation, I'm 70 years old. Shai, of course, is much younger. My generation is not as strong in the technological area, internet, etc., as the younger generation. And today, it goes more and more to this direction, online marketing and so on and so forth. This is more Shai's area. So naturally, more and more of the responsibility is on his shoulders because he's much stronger in this area than me. So sometimes, Rami, things are being done, by way of the natural way.
Sorry, interrupting you.
Yes.
What you're saying is,
Please.
Necessity breeds action, and the necessity of the way things were evolving, Shai has found his space, and that transition is happening very naturally.
Exactly so. It happens naturally, and we are both welcoming. And I'm not getting younger, unfortunately.
But it's getting better. It's getting better.
so gladly I'm delivering more and more responsibility in the business to Shai.
Okay, so Shmuel, on the number of occasions that we've sat at different congresses around the world,
yes.
We've chatted, and there's a word that I've always, well, not always, but in the last few years, I keep hearing you bringing up. And you have brought it up already in this conversation. And interestingly enough, in a conversation that I had with Shai, with the young group of young diamantaires that we're talking about, he brings up that word as well. And
what is that?
Famous word, profitability.
Oh.
I've touched a sore point here, but the trade has many challenges. And do you have fears for the direction the trade's going? And do you think it's going to get harder?
The profitability point that you are mentioning is a critical point in the diamond industry throughout the last 10 years, I would say, because I don't believe in profit in an industry that can survive without a decent profitability. Unfortunately, in the diamond business, I don't know, but probably the producers, maybe the retailers, some of the retailers could enjoy the time and make some profits. But the group of manufacturers and wholesalers had a lot of burden on their shoulders, especially the financial burden, while the profitability was very, very low.
I just want to stop you for 1 second, if I may.
Please.
Sorry that I'm cutting in here.
Of course.
And this is probably more for the audience as well, because, everyone struggles with this idea. I mean, the retailer, he makes a certain multiple, some make less, some move it. But in general, if he wasn't profitable, he wouldn't be in business. And I'm going to challenge you, you wouldn't be in business either if you weren't profitable. So the question is, right? I mean, because you continue to be in business and you have beautiful offices and you're at trade shows all over the world. So, we hear this word, it's not profitable, but I mean, clearly it must be. The question I want you to, if you could unpack for us a bit better, sorry, I'm speaking more, is, okay, you invested a certain amount of capital into rough and polished. You're selling it. Is it that the margin that you're selling it at just doesn't allow you to? It doesn't make sense in terms of you're turning over X dollars, but your running expenses to drive this machine doesn't balance. Is that the profitability you're talking about? Or, it's sort of like we were used to making such great profits and now we're making dramatically less profits, so it's not profitable.
I'll start from the end, Rami, with your permission. We used to make decent profits, and today it's not profitable at all, our business. And you'll ask me, very naturally the question, so why are you here? Why don't you put your money elsewhere? The answer is not as simply as somebody might think. Take me, for example. I'm in the business since 1973. Most of the years, I made money. I didn't lose. Most of the years, I made money. So the money that I made, luckily helped me go through more difficult times like today. So you always think it's temporary. Some things might change. The policy of the producers could change, meaning that the pricing of the rough will be more accurate so the manufacturer can make money. The world market in the polish will improve. We can make money over there. So you don't want a business that you were in for so long. You don't neglect, you don't leave in 1 second or after some years of bad times. You always hope for improvement. And that's the position of most of the diamantaires today. They suffer, but they are optimistic people basically, and they look for better times.
Our business, will maybe even further elaborate later, has been here for 80 years and it's looking, out for the long term. So if you look back and you look forward in many industries, you have cycles of downturn and upturn and upside. So we think that naturally, this is part of the trend in the diamond industry. It's gone through some difficult times the last few years. Maybe the coronavirus situation being the peak of these difficulties. But in that, we may also see some change and opportunities to further develop the business down the road. But I think, generally speaking, to this point, it's about the cycles. There'll be downturns, there'll be upsides.
So I want to challenge that for a second, if I may, because
Sure.
Shmuel, you've actually said 10 years. That's a decade.
Yes.
So you're actually saying you've been watching it deteriorate potentially for 10 years.
In profitability, yes.
Well, okay, exactly. So, and then you're saying you're hoping that this will happen or that will happen, but a lot of those things are out of your control. So the question is, what is in your control to change the cycle for you? So if I'm an independent, if I'm a small diamond wholesaler or medium-sized diamond wholesaler or whatever it is, big, right? And you're medium to large, we'll call you, right? To take pain for 10 years, waiting for change is a real big belief system. And Shai saying it's cyclical. Yes. That's a big dip. But
yes.
But the question is, again, and I don't want to repeat myself, but you pointed at all these other areas, but what is it that you could change?
I tell you, it's not me personally, but the trade could change. What do I mean? The key for change in the hands of the producers, the Beers, Rosa, and other leading companies. Once they come to the conclusion that their pricing policy doesn't allow the right profitability to the industry, these days things will change. At the same time, they have to adjust the quantities of rough allocated worldwide to today's situation. So once the pricing of the rough will be more accurate and the quantity of goods allocated will be smaller, this will be the key for change.
I remember being at one of our conferences and one of the top guys from Ala Rosa, or maybe it was from Crystal, and he said, guys, I remember, I think it was Chaim did a chart. We were at the same conference. Chaim did a chart and he said, profitability. And he said, you're crazy. We're not making the money that you say that we're making. Our costs are so high, right? The profit's not there for us. So if you're pointing at the producers, and I recall specifically the producers saying, we're not making money. We're not hiding stuff. There's massive costs. Then if they can't change, where does the change happen?
Also, I believe that the world market, as far as diamond jewelry is concerned, will change. The virus is, with God's help, is not going to be with us forever. Once it's over, the world will wake up. People will want to compensate themselves on the misery of the last year, and they will start buying things to make themselves happy, their wives happy, their girlfriends happy, etc., etc. Diamond jewelry will be a hit at this day. I'm a big believer that we are expecting a very, very, very good period once this crisis is over. So the combination of that, I do believe that the producers will come to a more rational policy, together with the world's consumption that will be much, much stronger in my view, will bring the change, Rami. And all us diamantaires are optimistic people. Maybe it's a handicap, maybe it's not, but we believe in the future. we think that we have a huge future of our industry still ahead. We need some patience now.
There's a saying within the public, on the general public opinion, that diamond people are like babies. They cry and they grow. So, as we can say, over the last 10 years, things have been quite challenging. We have seen trends within the pipeline. The pipeline is challenging. The margins are, I wouldn't say evaporated, but somewhat different than what we were used to in the past, in the short and long past, of course. And it brings us to a few questions. Okay, some of them are hard. As you said, our company has always been one of the largest and most significant within the trade, but it doesn't mean that we take it for granted and assuming that what was in place tomorrow, yesterday will be in place tomorrow. So we're always questioning ourselves and seeing how to proceed. That said, we do see trend of consolidation within the diamond pipeline, because these, and I'm not talking company by company, but within the general trade, these margins by the manufacturing B2B sector cannot go ahead as they are today. So probably there will be some consolidation process, and it brings us actually, to deeper questions on it. What is a diamantaire? You've led the group of YDs, young diamantaires within the World Federation of Diamond courses over the last few years, and quite successfully, if I may add. You founded it and led it.
You may add that. That's okay.
Yeah, I have already. Thanks. And really, doing so, we've been dealing with some questions. You've mentioned my questions about profitability and how to increase profitability, which is a tough one. And also, what do diamond people do? What's their place within the pipeline? Where are they situated? What is their positioning? And these are some of the questions we ask ourselves as well, of course, in the company. So if there's anything which we add on, please go ahead.
Let's be a little bit philosophical for a moment.
Yes.
If someone is coming into the diamond industry today, right, what's a couple of things that you would say they should be aware of, mindful of? Just a couple of, straight away you'd say to yourself, okay, you need to know A, B, C.
First of all, you have to know the business well. Don't go to a business you don't know so well, especially when it comes to diamonds. You have to be a real professional. For people who don't know the basics, it's impossible. Second thing that I would say, which is very, very important today, keep the liquidity of your business. Because, the companies that have good liquidity, decent liquidity, will survive. Those who are tight and don't have the reserves or don't have the know-how how to build the reserves, I don't see a bright future for them in the business, because today it's not a business that you can count from today to tomorrow. You have to see it in a view of months, years, and so on and so forth. A period in which you might not have a big action period.
Yep.
So you have to be aware to the liquidity of your company. This is the best advice I can give.
Number 3, you gave me 2. I need my third one.
All the above, first of all, and second, and then something which I can give to more to diamond centers than to individuals. Because the profitability is so low in the business, today it's very difficult to deal second-hand with diamonds. What do I mean? To get the diamond from the manufacturer and to market it. In order to survive in today's situation, you have to do everything in order to be the first hand to manufacture yourself the diamonds. This way you can somehow maximize your profit prospects, and you have a better way of marketing. And the last one, Rami, give a big chance to young generation today. You yourself, you're doing a great job with the young diamantaires. That's our future. Thank you for that. Why do I say it in this context? Today, it's the era of the online marketing and online activities in many other areas in the diamond field. Young people have to be to have a big role in this. And once we do it, I see a much brighter future.
Shai, 3 quick ones. 3 quick things that you give advice to someone coming into the industry, just short ones, off the cuff.
I would stick to the main message, not to 3, okay? Because if the last Corona period is or COVID period has taught us something, okay, it's to reduce clutter and keep the essentials, okay? Keep the long-lasting things, long-lasting effect. Diamonds being among these, okay? So I definitely see the diamond jewelry business as a main area to develop these trends, ideas. By the way, they don't have to stick to the obvious, okay? Being part of the diamond and jewelry industry is not necessarily only buying and selling diamonds. It can be part of the services industry, whether moving diamonds or insuring them, as you know, or banking the trade.
Yeah.
And also, and the last thing, I would say is going with diamonds as a means of financial interest. I believe that at some point diamonds will integrate within the financial markets. People have been talking about diamonds as a commodity for a long, long time. I believe sometime over the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even less, this trend will get a pace, and I think it may be a very good place to be for some of the entrepreneurs and financial players within the industry or otherwise.
I've been having a conversation with a few people in the diamond jewelry industry. When I ask that question, one of the things that comes up often is to actually learn not just the diamond trade as in the knowledge of the diamond and how to buy or rough or polish, but actually understand business, as a separate concept, how to run an effective business. And, a lot of people are in our trade, and I take the perspective when I look at them that they're wheelers dealers. They're very good at buying, selling, and it's quickly, but they don't necessarily understand the fundamentals of business, And so I smile when you talk about profitability because you really do understand, you're acutely aware of the margin along the way that needs to happen.
But Rani, sometimes they say that to be a good salesman, you need not to know the product. So let's see.
Well, there's two sides to every story, right? So absolutely.
But the diamond is a product we're very happy to know about and to sell.
Yeah. So Shmuel, what was the most incredible stone you ever handled? Like, did you ever put a stone in your hand and go, oh my God?
Listen, I've seen many stones of rough diamonds, 100 carats, 150, 200 carats, which were amazing. Some of those we manufactured, some we sold. And I personally love the potential to check the potential of the rough, to see what will come out of it. And this is a great challenge, the greatest challenge in our business. To talk about specific stones, I am always personally very much impressed by fancy color stones. We did some business with 50 carats, 60, 70 carats of blue, pink, very special colors, which I always remember. These are special stones, very expensive ones, but you always remember them.
Can I ask you a question? This is a bit left field for a second. Did you ever have a stone blow on you? Like a big piece of crystal that just someone hit it the wrong way and it just...
Luckily, never. I had accidents in the factory, smaller stones, but not with such stones. No.
Right.
No.
We like to spread our risk, among many stones.
Knowing the two of you, I know what a incredible relationship you have, and very relaxed. And I've watched you actually in the Diamond Bourse from a distance where you were standing together talking. And I was smiling to myself, this is a few years ago in Israel, and I was smiling to myself thinking, you're talking like friends. You're not actually even talking like father-son, which was really interesting.
Correct.
Did you have that relationship with your father, Shmuel?
Similar relationships, very close relationships. But I think today, younger generation is not the same like my time of being young generation. And, I'm sure each one of us know what I'm talking about. The relationship between us and our parents are not exactly the same like our children ourselves. You agree with me, right, Rami?
I do. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a situation. It has changed. But having said that, the same very open and so-called friendly, like friends relationships. I used to have with my father also. And this was the reason why I liked so much being with him in the business. And hopefully he also enjoyed it a little bit with me.
It's interesting. When I look back at my father, I mean, I had amazing conversations with my father, but I never felt like I was talking to my friend. There was a very clear line definition.
You're
But yet,
right.
today when I talk with my boys and my daughter, it's a very different, much more relaxed, much more.
It's very similar. It doesn't mean that the relationship we had with our parents were not healthy, but it's a little bit different. Nothing to do about it.
Shai, two things. One, do you want your children to come into the diamond industry?
Wow, as we've said, we're big believers in free trade and free will.
Yeah.
Okay. As I said,
I know, but do you want them to? No, I get all that.
I want them to get in the business, surely, but for sure, it's not going to be the same business that we know today. It goes back to that question. It will be a different trade. They maybe do other things, but yeah, I'll be very glad it become part of the diamond jewelry trade.
So Shai, your dad's obviously here in the conversation, and I know I could answer this question pretty easily. Sometimes it takes a bit more thought. What is a couple of things that, we always hear our parents tell us certain things that it like repeated philosophically again in our head about life or about business? What is a couple of things that Shmuel always used to say to you, but don't forget? What's a big
Well, it's a question that's really hard to answer, because since I literally have had the privilege of learning from this man every day over the last
yeah, but come on.
So, but you want the truth.
There's always one or two.
This is the truth, but I would specify, a few out of many. And these are messages not only for business, but for everyday life.
Yeah.
And this is something that has been running on within the family for generations, the power of family, right? And the importance of the family's unity. So that said, we do just try to spend time together as much as possible, which is, of course, fun, as you can see.
Sure.
And it goes back, of course, to the business. The family is a major part of it. Being a family, brainstorming, and doing things together. A second thing I would mention is that we're implementing within our business is the power of long-lasting relationships. We never look at customers or suppliers as one-off deals. Okay, but rather look at them long-term. By the way, the same goes for our employees. Quite a few of them have been with us for ages, 20, 30 years. It's about, this is what, going back to my father said, it's about building relationships that will last, go over years, not tens of years. And the third thing, I would mention, which is very important, is integrity. One needs to be really keep true to himself. You need to keep your word, even if it costs. And we've seen, in our business that sometimes it costs, and it has cost us in the past. But long term, we see it as an investment. Okay, you might lose here and there keeping your word, but at the end of the day, you make out of it and you keep your name, which is, I think, the most important thing within the diamond industry. And this is our view going forward today.
Well, Shmuel, I think you can be very proud. He was listening, He was clearly listening.
Taking notes.
Exactly. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much, both of you, for your time.
Thank you very much, Rami.
And I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the insight into your lives and to the history that, such an illustrious family has achieved so much. I look forward to working with you more in the future, Shai, which no doubt we will.
Thank you, Ami.
And Shmuel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to your company on the next one. Take care.